don't say.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Coventry Town Council to order at 6:32 PM. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua is going to be late. Councilmember Ludwig is absent. Councilmember Shockley,
Here.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Here.
President Lima.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. In the event of an emergency, those present in council chambers this evening can exit out either door number 1 or 2 in the back of council chambers to exit to the front lawn or back parking lot of Town Hall. May I have a motion to approve the May 9th, July 6th, July 11th, and July 25th meeting minutes as a block?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 9th, July 6th, July 11th, July 25th, executive and open sessions?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Shockley, second by Vice President LeBlanc. Any discussion? Clerk, did you receive any edits?
Just the edits I received from you.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes. Moving on to public hearings and public comment on docketed items only. I'll do first public comment on docketed items only. Are there any members of the public here who would like to make a public comment on docketed items? Welcome. Just state your name and address for the record. Make sure the microphone's on.
Mark Lemoy, 34 Island Drive, President, Johnson Pond Civic Association. As I'm sure you're all aware, Social Holdings today is continued their all-out assault on the town of Coventry and the residents, and they've opened the dam up, letting out. There were just under 300 cubic feet per second before I came to the meeting, and they're well on their way, as they stated, between 300 and 400 cubic feet per second, which is millions and millions of gallons of water. Again, you've heard me say it. I'm just going to continue to say that the Civic Association provides its support to the town council and anything you can do to help rectify the situation and stop this bad behavior. I know that they continue to just ignore what the courts suggest. Again, your efforts are greatly appreciated to continue this forward. And two things I want to leave on is, one is, if eminent domain is in the discussions at all, I think that the residents would fully support it, as well as a dam management district where we could run, maintain, and operate the dam as set up already by state law. Town would just have to provide an ordinance to allow us to operate, and we could control our own dam and financial matters at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public here in council chambers who'd like to make a public comment? Oh, come forward. Just state your name and address for the record, please, and make sure the microphone's turned on.
Ross Pelletier, 44 Allison Avenue. I'm here to kind of mirror off of Mark regarding Social Holdings. The pond has dropped significantly just today, and the flow is still going up. I also want to say thank you to the legal team. I was able to attend half of the first day, couldn't do all of them because I have to work, of the trials, and I thought the legal team did a great job. The inspector, he was very knowledgeable, said the dam's in fair shape, could be used. I guess the judge didn't really see it the same way. And also the DPW director, I thought did a great job explaining the maintenance that he's done, the history of when they've been doing it, and why he keeps doing it this way. I just want to, again, mirror with Mark. Eminent domain seems like it's the only way out. They're going to fight tooth and nail anytime they can to lower it. They're going to lower it. Once the lease is gone, it's going to be the residents coming to you guys to say, hey, the pond's going down, and having you guys go to the state and the state going to DEM, it's just going to be a big circle. And nothing, it'll take even longer to get stuff done. I think that this council is very smart. They're very active, engaged, and you guys could do a lot of great things. It would be great if this could come off of your plate. So you could work on other things, bring more business into town and stuff. Again, I'm in favor of eminent domain. I've talked to a lot of my friends, neighbors that live on the pond, and they're all in favor of it. They realize that, okay, we'll have to pay a little bit, but it's not the $3,000 a month or $7,000, whatever they were suggesting. And take it over by eminent domain, pass the debt on to the dam district made up of the pond residents or lake district, whatever you want to call it. And then we manage it from there and everything is good. And then you guys can get on to your other matters on your plate. I just want to thank you for everything you've done and just hope if eminent domain's in the books, it can be something you guys could go on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public here would like to make a public comment on docketed items on our agenda this evening? Moving to Zoom, any members on Zoom who would like to make a public comment on docketed items only? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Public comment on docketed items is now closed. Moving on to public hearings. Item A, continued from February 21st, 2023, Town Council meeting, new Class B liquor license with new victualling and live show entertainment application by Truffle Fry Incorporated, doing business as Lake Taco, 446 Tyoke Ave, Coventry. Do I have a motion to open public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes. Public hearing is now open. We have the business in front of us today. Just introduce yourselves again for the public and talk a little bit about the license request.
Sure. Justin Dalton, me, president of the company, with my partner Josh Culpo, vice president. We've taken over 446 Tyoke Ave, the old Nino's location. We're putting in a restaurant called Lake Taco, which is going to be a tequila taco bar concept with also 100% wood smokers that smoke all our own meat in-house. Neighborhood restaurant, pretty much. As you know, we applied for, or we filled out our application for a liquor license back in February. And we were seeking to have that license granted but not issued. The recommendation at the time from the solicitor was to not grant that license and to wait instead till everything was, all requirements were fulfilled by us, which, as I said at that last meeting, it was that was unfamiliar to me. As every other, we have 5 liquor licenses in our name and we have never had to do that before. So I communicated a little bit with President Lima, just to let her know I didn't think that solicitor's recommendation was necessarily the right one. I also looked up the regulatory provisions that govern this, and my whole thing was our goal was to build a bar, and which we've started to do, but we have no assurances that there would be a license available to us. So we're back again asking to have our application granted but not issued, as statute 1414 of the regulatory provisions provides in this situation. And again, and I met with the town manager and the town clerk. We're not looking to have our license issued to us. We understand there's a fair amount of stuff that needs to be accomplished by us before that happens. It's just saying, yes, there is a license available to you, which will be issued to you upon completion of everything required. Excuse me. And it's just a backup for, as business people, there needs to be some sort of assurance that yes, upon completion of doing everything the right way by the book, you will be issued a liquor license. So we're here today to ask you to consider our request.
Any questions from members of the council? Councilmember Shockley.
Are you also the owners of another restaurant in the town of Coventry?
We own Black Oak Restaurant in Tyoke Ave. Yep.
Okay, that's what I had thought. I guess I have a question for the solicitor or the council, I'm not sure. Does Coventry have a specific number of liquor licenses that we are eligible to give out, or do we have it
No,
on?
not a.
But we do have an established business in town who's looking for an additional liquor license, and they're kind of a restaurant group at this point. Am I correct?
We have different kind of ownership at each place, but Josh and I are the principals of 5 licenses in Rhode Island and 1 in Boston. So this would be our 6th. Sorry, 4 in Rhode Island, 1 in Boston. This would be our 5th in Rhode Island.
Okay, I guess I'd need more reasoning on why we wouldn't grant without issuing.
Madam Clerk, could you just note for the record, Councilman Pasco has now joined the meeting. Thank
Yes.
you. Madam Clerk, or Manager Parrillo, it sounds like you had a meeting with this group.
Yes, we met with Justin and we went over the couple of things that are remaining with his application. One is a health inspection, I believe, and I think it's just a CO, if I'm correct, Joanne. I think those 2 are remaining, so we are recommending with the solicitor's approval to grant him that license pending him getting those final 2 necessary requirements upon opening.
Before I, thank you. Before I open to public hearing, are there any other questions or discussion from members of the council? Vice President LeBlanc.
As part of this request is a live show entertainment application as well. What days and what are the times of those live shows that you believe will occur? If approved?
More than not, it's 1 to 2 days a week. Or, when we see a crowd that's looking for that type of thing, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All our businesses are food focused. We don't try to be the place people go to end their night. We try to be the place people go to start their night. And I think if you drive by a lot of our places, there's not a lot going on towards the end because it's just not what we're looking for. It's not our business model. We're more about neighborhood restaurants that serve good drinks too. But really food focused is who we are.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
All right, at this time, I will open up public hearing. Are there any members of the public who would like to make a public comment on this license request? Council chambers. Any members of the public on Zoom? Public hearing on this license request. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. At this time, I will seek a motion to close public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes. Any additional discussion from council members? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the new Class B liquor license with new victualling and live show entertainment application by Truffle Fry Inc., doing business as Lake Taco, 446 Tyoke Avenue, Coventry, contingent upon certificate of occupancy and final health inspection that the clerk will hold?
Make them a,
Madam
Go
President,
ahead.
there are 2 applications. There's one for the liquor license and one for the live show entertainment. If I'm not mistaken, it's an entertainment license.
Mhm.
So there are 2.
Oh, sorry, it was listed as just one agenda
No.
item. That confused me. So I'll do the Class B liquor license contingent upon certificate of occupancy and final health inspection that'll be held with the clerk.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Shockley, second by Vice President LeBlanc. Any discussion? Councilman Pasqua.
Recently, we've been adding fire district signing off to these licenses as well. Should we add that to the list of contingencies?
Did they,
They,
I thought they already got that.
yeah,
Because when they came in February, I think they had that.
You. Perfect. Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
I'll now ask for the same motion contingent upon certificate of occupancy and final health inspection to be held with the clerk for the victualling and live show entertainment application.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice President Blank, second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes,
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, folks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Moving on to licenses, item A, application for exhibitions and performance licenses. Western Rhode Island Civic Historical Society located at Payne House Museum, 7 Station Street, Coventry, Rhode Island, Heritage Day event, September 16th, 2023, rain date September 17th, 2023. Pages 36 to 37 in your council packets. Do I hear a motion to approve the application?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice President Blank, second by Councilmember Shockley. Discussion? Welcome. Could you state your name and address for the record and talk about your event?
Colleen Hodges. My address is 39 York Drive, and this is the yearly Heritage Day celebration. We have craft show and a lot of historical reenactors this year. We have the regular spinners and weavers. We have a historic chocolatier. We're going to have a historic toy maker, a medical Civil War medical tent, lots of reenactment going on, lots of history, and lots of fun stuff to buy. We would like to ask the council to waive the fee for the permit like they do each year. And just adds to our profit margin, which is minimal to say the least. Since this is all free to the public, there's no charge for any of this.
Manager Parrillo, Madam Clerk, any additions?
No concerns, all set.
Discussions from members of the council? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
We thank you very much.
Vice
Is it a
President
motion to
Blank?
waive
Oh.
the, sorry.
Go ahead.
Did we motion to waive the fee or?
That's what he was just going to
Okay.
do. Gotcha.
I'll make a motion, as this entity is a local 501c, to waive the license fee of $100.
Second.
Motion from Vice President Blank, second from Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes,
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank you so much.
thank you. Have a great night. Moving on to item B, new mobile food establishment license, Pistolas Inc., doing business as La Piñata Taqueria. Diego Contreras yearly license. This is pages 38 and 39 in your packet. Do I hear a motion to approve the license?
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion? Is someone here available tonight to represent this business on behalf? Manager Parrillo, Madam Clerk, any comments on this license?
No concerns.
Any discussion from members of the council? Vice President LeBlanc?
Just for the record, the police department indicated no concerns and the zoning officer indicated no concerns as well.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Item C, new mobile food establishment license, Pelagi's Ice Cream, Alex Artega, yearly license. Do I hear a motion to approve the license?
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion from Vice President Blank, second from Councilman Pasqua. Discussion? Is there anyone here to represent this business this evening? Council chambers or on Zoom? Any discussion from Manager Parrillo, Madam Clerk, any comments?
No issues.
Vice President Blank?
Again, just for the record, police department indicated no concerns, zoning officer indicated no concerns. And I would like for a Pelagi's ice cream truck to come up my street.
They drove by mine the other day.
Just go to Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Absolutely.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Moving on to report of the town manager, Daniel Parrillo. Item A, proposed ingress and egress agreement, 639 Main Street, Coventry, Assessors Plat 96, Lot 20.
Thank you, Madam President. Our new town planner, Doug McLean, was going to handle this, but he had a prior commitment tonight, so you guys haven't met him yet, but you will shortly. This applicant actually started in January, looking for this easement. He has some property on Main Street. The town has approximately 750 square feet of land that abuts his piece of property. He's looking to gain the easement in order to make it much more accessible to his property and much safer to pull onto Main Street. The application was vetted by Doug McLean, as well as Kevin McGee and Joe Levesque, and they have no concerns. I went out to the site and met with everyone there and have no concerns. So we're asking the council to approve this easement for Mr. Secoshia and Dante.
Vice President LeBlanc,
I'll make the motion to approve.
motion by Vice President LeBlanc.
Second.
Second by Councilman Pasqua. Discussion from the council. Councilman Pasqua.
So, Manager Parrillo, you just mentioned that this was applied for in January. Well, we're in August. Why did this one get to us? Any idea?
Transition mainly is the main reason why it kind of fell through the cracks. To get started with Director Durfee, then we had the vacancy, and then Doug McLean came on, and it just kind of got lost in the pile of transition. He was very, I gotta say, Mr. Secoshia was very patient with us and understood our dilemma, was more than willing to work with us, and just hoping that this would happen eventually, and hopefully tonight is the night.
Any further discussion from members of the council? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Item B, update on wastewater, West Warwick Municipal Treatment Center.
So I provided the council a letter that came from West Warwick and the treatment center regarding a charge that was forwarded to us. So in December, they had a pipe collapse and it had to be replaced. The total cost of that replacement was $542,000. Per our intermunicipal agreement, our share of that is 21.38%. So our bill is $116,000. So that needs to be paid to the treatment facility in a timely manner. So we did meet with Mark Knott, the town manager there, Jeff Chapdelaine, the director of the sewage treatment plant, just to kind of establish that relationship. I hadn't met any of them yet. So I went there to just kind of set the foundation, let them know that we do want to be a part of the discussion when it comes to things like this. We haven't really taken part in any of the meetings that they've had over the last few months. So we kind of established that. We are going to be paying for this most likely from the sewer enterprise fund, the $116,000. So that's one portion of the memorandum. The second portion is the facility itself needs substantial upgrades. So our share over the next 3 years is approximately $2.2 million. So we need to start thinking about now how we're going to pay for those upgrades over the next 3 years. Regarding sewer fee increases, setting some money aside and other options. So again, I just wanted to get this on the council's radar. All of the breakdowns are within the language of the intermunicipal agreement. So there's nothing that is out of the ordinary. The responsibility and the percentages are all accurate based on the 1999 agreement that we have signed. It was just a little bit of a shock going forward that we're going to be on the hook for this much money in this shorter period of time.
Was there discussion in the meeting with West Warwick about how this issue happened in December, but they waited till now to send us the bill? Like I'm pretty sure West Warwick has the same budget cycle that we do. So
Yeah, I asked them that and they pretty much said it wasn't processed in a timely manner. That was kind of how they left it. I told them that, and I said, would have been nice to know, and during budget season, that we had this bill pending. And I asked if it was the first or second or third bill, if we had missed any previous ones, and they said, no, this was the first bill they sent us in July. So I politely told them that they may be waiting a little while to get payment. So And they were agreeable to that and there was no issue.
Discussion from members of the council on this item. Councilmember Shockley.
I know I've asked this before. Seems from what you're saying, we're about 24 years into what I understand is about a 100-year agreement.
I believe so.
I would like to look into any and all legal ways that we can look to nullify this contract. We are being impacted in a way that we can't afford. I mean, I don't know if a town has to declare bankruptcy before it's able to get out of a contract that doesn't seem like it was wisely gone into. I do think that the thoughts were that the sewer system would grow faster than it did here. But at this point in the contract, like I said, I would like to look into any and all legal ways to no longer
Yeah,
be a
we-
party to this contract.
We can have that discussion and see if that is something that's viable. I don't know if there's any language in that contract as a reopener language or anything like
Yeah.
that. I'm sure Mr. Angel will have a better idea on how that works. But that was also brought up during our meeting, that when these rates were set, I think the thought process was we would be further into our sewer program.
Yeah,
and
I don't
we would
feel
have
West
more
Warwick
people
did
paying
anything
into that.
wrong. And I
No.
also understand that we need to have a contract because we
Mhm.
do utilize their treatment center.
Yep.
But like you said, there seems to be a lot of legal ways to go into and get out of arrangements. I just have trouble believing that we are bound to a 100-year contract with no changes at all based on usage.
Further discussion from members of the council. Update on sanitation.
So sanitation is in a rough spot right now. We currently have 4 trucks down. I just saw one getting towed away as I pulled in tonight. With that being said, we had to extend that rental agreement that we did for last month, another month. So that's a $10,000 bill for sanitation for that. And we also have 1 truck that needs a new transmission at approximately $18,000. So by the end of the month, I will have a memo to the council explaining what our options are regarding sanitation, how we're going to move forward. The time constraint is a big problem. If we are to decide to get new trucks or lease new trucks, we're talking 12 to 18 months out before we even have those trucks into our fleet. With that being said, the other option is still being looked at, whether there's a better service out there. But I will definitely have a memo to you guys by the end of this month detailing that so you can make a decision on what direction we should go in. But it's kind of critical that we decide to go either way once and for all.
Discussion from members of the council. Councilmember Shockley.
Just to make sure I understand, when you say other options out there, you mean privatizing or?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were referring to.
Yes.
And I know West Warwick privatized at least a portion of theirs. I don't know if we could look at other towns who have gone this direction to see how it's worked out for them, if it's benefited them financially in the way they expected.
Yeah, I've been in touch with a couple of other municipalities and I'm talking to a couple other people I know who've gone through this process to see how you go about it and what's best for us based on the parameters we have. I mean, we still have 12 more years to pay on the 9 trucks that we have. So we owe about $3.5 million on our 9 trucks and they're falling apart daily. So that's a big concern for us.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Will there be a formal RFP going out for this?
I think eventually it will be. Right now, I'm just trying to get a basic idea of what that cost would be before I go out to formal RFP. I don't want to waste anyone's time with the formal RFP if we really don't know that it's not going to be feasible. So I think I'm just trying to gauge right now where we could possibly be. And the RFP itself is we've already drawn it up. We just haven't sent it out yet. But I think I like to have an idea of where we're at before we decide to go that route.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, thank you. Moving on to report of other town officers and officials, Robert Civetti, CPA Finance Director, fiscal year 23 update.
Good evening. So everybody should have received yesterday copy of the fiscal 2023. Yeah, we provided some highlights. So I'll just touch base, but again, it's a thanks. Again, as I noted, wrote the document, this is draft, it's unaudited. It's still being worked on. Obviously, we're only, 4 or 5 weeks after fiscal year end. We still have bills coming in, plus we're still trying to reconcile accounts and transactions. But based on the report that you received, it's currently showing a deficit for fiscal 2023 of approximately 750,000. That's comprised of two components. The primary one is there's a revenue shortfall of roughly 1.5 million. On the expense side, there's actually various departments where there's some overages, some under budgets. But in total, the expenditures are approximately $700,000 under budget. So, the shortfall that it looks like we're going to have for the year. Again, I don't have a definitive number at this point, but looks like there would be a shortfall. Appears to be primarily a result of revenue shortfall. So revenues were just budgeted higher than anticipated or came in less than anticipated for whatever reason. One thing to keep in mind, again, in accordance with the accounting standards and the numbers we're talking here, it's my understanding the town, if everything were to break even, the town would have had a deficit of approximately 250,000 because of a resolution that was approved to pay 250,000 for the study for the school project, the stage 1, stage 2 application. I think that was voted on to come out of the reserves. Well, for accounting purposes, that shows as an expenditure. So technically, we'd be looking at 250,000 deficit. So if you exclude that, we're currently at about $500,000. Again, there's some highlights here. I don't know if anybody had any questions. I'd be happy to answer them if I can. I'll get you the answers.
So, what would you say we're looking like next month in terms of, say, end of September, if we asked for an updated, is it going to
Hopefully
look
we'll have
much
a high-
different?
It's not going to be an audited number, but I'd have a better
A harder
indication of-
number?
Yeah, it would be something that I would be getting ready to give to the auditors and say, okay, this is where we're at, and be comfortable with saying everything's recorded, we're reconciled.
Okay.
So
Do you have a date when you hope to send things to the auditors for the FY
for
23?
23, we're hoping for mid-September.
Okay.
So I would say, as you mentioned, for the end of September, we should be able to give you a pretty good number. And one of the items that comes into fact is there's revenue recognition for the town where tax revenue that's collected up to 60 days after year end gets recorded in the previous fiscal year.
Okay.
So obviously, in order to do that, we need to hit beginning of September and get everything processed. So end of September would be my best guess.
Councilman Pasqua.
What part of that 1.5 million of revenue do you think is recoverable? Like, are we just, like you said, waiting on last quarter tax bills? Is it, are we waiting to see impact fees being reconciled? Like what, how much of that you think is recoverable?
Again, looking at it quickly, it looks like there may have just been some misstatements in the budget preparation. So if you look at some of how the taxes were budgeted in motor vehicles versus what actually we're getting for motor vehicle phase out. So it looks like the estimates were just too high. So I don't think a lot of it's recoverable. And that's where, when we put together this year's budget, you saw our revenue line items less than what was previous years because we thought that prior year was overstated. Just for police department as one example, it was about 125,000 less there. When we met with the chief and the business manager for the police department, they both had no idea where the previous year's budget came from. They didn't think they'd ever reach those numbers. So again, we tried to, which was part of the reason you had the increase in your budget this year. There wasn't a significant increase in the expenditures that were put forth by the town manager. It was primarily just shortfalls in revenue.
Councilmember Shockley.
Thank you. I'm going to admit, I think I just sometimes have a hard time reading through some of this. But just kind of the wording, because it says state aid, 1.6 million more than budgeted. Is that under budget or over budget?
The state
got
aid
more
from
in state
that
aid?
standpoint, well, the state aid from that standpoint, we're saying it's 1.6 million more than what was budgeted. But then if you go look at some of the tax revenue, they had budgeted significant revenue on the motor vehicles. It was budgeted, but obviously the town did not bill for motor vehicles last year. So it came in more on state aid, but there's a shortfall on the tax revenue side.
I apologize, but I'm not quite sure I'm following you. So you kind of broke down for us here
Some of the highlights.
the different revenue streams,
Correct.
but I can't always tell based on your wording whether it was, it seems like Treasury Department actually did have more revenue than expected because of this unrealized gain. So not all of these on this list have a shortfall. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm
Correct. Some's excess, some short.
okay.
So it's a net of each category.
So the state aid, we actually did get more than was budgeted for, but there were items in different lines where we came in under.
Correct.
Okay. Like I said, I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly because sometimes I do just. People in accounting think backwards. So it's kind of hard to follow sometimes.
I don't know if you have the document, if you have the document in front of you, but just the item you're talking about. If you look at page 2,
Mhm.
right in the middle there, you have the Department 615. So if you look at the first 2 lines, you have motor vehicle phase out reimbursements. You'd see the first 2 lines, we had budgeted approximately 3.1 million. It came in at 5.8 million. But then when you go down to underneath, where am I here? The section right underneath it, section 620, when you look at auto excise tax, we budgeted 3.4 million. We only collected 93,000.
Mhm.
So there's a shortfall in the motor vehicle tax of 3.3 million, but the state made up a portion of that, roughly 2.7 million.
Gotcha.
So again, it's just the different categories. Why motor vehicle was budgeted, it may have just been the timing of it by the time legislation came out and said that they were gonna not require or not allow for motor vehicle billing. So I'm just not sure what your budget process was for that
Okay.
previous year.
The other thing I'm wondering is, so throughout the course of the year, the council will ask how something is being paid for. And our issue this year was definitely not that we allowed more expenditures than we had budgeted for. So I'm wondering if there's a way of working this out throughout the year so that if we're falling short in our revenues, we start making sure that maybe we're altering our budgets as well. Because just because we budgeted for something in June the prior year, if we're not getting the revenues we require, we need to make sure we're not spending the money. So I just ask you how we might be able to better prepare for the end of the year if we're seeing those revenue shortfalls, or if there are some we wouldn't be able to see that really.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the timely reporting and getting everything entered in the system. I can tell you that we're updated, receipts are entered on a weekly basis, daily basis, at a minimum weekly, but generally every other day, all the tax collections, everything's getting entered into the system. So we'll be monitoring. You'll get fiscal year 2024 budget actuals, on a monthly basis, so you can see where we're at. I'll meet with the town manager, and if we think there's going to be shortfalls, obviously we would put, spending freeze in place or make the adjustments that are necessary. So it all comes down to just making sure the records are updated and maintained. I could tell you we've probably, even though we're still working on the 22 audit, 23 bank recs, we're through a lot of the smaller accounts have already been reconciled through the end of July.
Yeah.
So we're doing everything on a timely basis and making sure everybody's working together as one team.
Yeah, and thank you, and please pass along to your staff the thank you
Sure.
for getting everything that was so far behind updated.
We're still getting there, but thank you.
I think the plan too is to have each department really monitor their own budget monthly, like be on top of it, be looking at it monthly to see where they are, whether your expenditures are being realized, if you can save anywhere where you can save. I think it's really going to be on each individual director to take responsibility for their budget. And if they see a problem, to bump it up to Mr. Civetti and say, okay, I'm seeing a problem here. How should we go about addressing it before it comes towards the last quarter of the year.
Vice President LeBlanc.
For the record, I take offense that accountants think backwards. Politicians, not this group, okay, have a
I
habit.
didn't
of
say I was
approving
wrong. You
projects,
just said you were
programs,
offended.
and significant bonds, and then ask how they can afford it after they approve it. So, sorry. Anyways, your email specifically said preliminary, I think 15 times, and there were significant assumptions. So I didn't go too detailed into the numbers because I was waiting for better, solid numbers. So I'll have more questions once we get that report. No, thanks. Thanks.
Further discussion from members of the council on the finance director's report. All right, thank you. Moving on to B, Kevin McGee, Department of Public Works. Item A, update on motor grader damage. This is on page 51 to 55 in your packets.
Good evening. I believe a memo went out to everybody.
Yes.
And give a quick synopsis. We had our grader that was in Western Coventry had a hydraulic leak for the steering. We weren't able to drive it back, so we called our licensed tow truck operator, and they failed to disengage the drive wheels and towed it from the front wheels, and they fried the entire transmission. By the time it came back here, it was smoking. They initially said that we'll take care of it. We'll get it fixed. Brought it down to a local company that did the evaluation of it. Once that was done, they were having a problem sourcing the parts because the grader's in 1988, so it's 35 years old, and it was deemed the parts were obsolete and not available. We had everybody check from John Deere across the entire eastern seaboard and across mid-Atlantic states, and there's nothing available. There's nothing there. It's there. The discussion at that point then became, all right, well, we know it's a 35-year-old grader. However, we need a grader. We can't continue to do the 17 miles of gravel roads in the Western Coventry with a skid steer and a backhoe. We initially came to an agreement that the town would split the cost for a replacement grader. Took several weeks, located one in Maine. It was a 2001. It wasn't a new grader, but it had 3,000 hours on the drivetrain. We put a hold on it, told the town manager, went back to the tow truck operator, told him what it was. His portion at that point would have been it was 45,000. His cost would have been the half of that. And right when we were ready to pull the trigger to do this, he said, no, we only ruined the transmission, so we're only going to give it 8,000 towards the transmission. And I said, that's not acceptable. You ruined something that was running. All we had was a hydraulic leak, and now I don't have a workable grader. I said, this is going further. Then to add insult to injury, he sends me a bill for towing the grader, which we are not going to pay, obviously. So we deemed him as being unqualified, doing the damage to our grader, and we're using a secondary tow truck operator that we have. And he started, that's the one you saw towing our sanitation truck out today. So, at that point, town manager indicated that it's an emergency. We do have to have that grader in place and authorized us to go forward and purchase it out of contingency. And we have the grader here ready to start working, and just waiting for where it's on temporary plates from the dealer. We're waiting for the certificate of origin so that we can register it for road work. And I'm willing to answer any other questions, but it was not something we had planned to do. It's been in our capital for many years, but it wasn't planned and budgeted for this year to replace the grader. And we went from a 88 to 2001. So we're not buying a new one. It's one size bigger than what was it. 'Cause that 670 size is no longer available. Again, it's obsolete. And that's where we're at.
Was the understanding on the half and half ever put in writing with this guy, or was it
No,
just a
it was not.
handshake phone call?
It was a verbal, and he said, I'll take care because I ruined it. I'll take care of, I'll step up and do my half. And then he reneged when the time came to actually do it.
Yeah, sounds like we learned our lesson there, didn't we?
one way or the other, we needed to get the grader replaced, whether it was through him or had taken legal action against what they did to our property.
Yeah, we're gonna obviously pursue that with Mr. Angel, see if we have any requests regarding that. And just one change, I think instead of contingency, it's gonna come out of the capital reserve fund. I believe I talked to Mr. Civetti, and I think that's where it's gonna come out of for now, until we can hopefully get to restitution.
Councilmember Shockley.
Were we able to, or do we feel we might be able to get the $8,000?
Oh, he would give us the $8,000.
He gave us the
I
8,000.
don't know. He offered that and I refused it because the transmission is not the issue. Even though they brought the transmission, we needed a grader that was working.
Yeah, and I understand we needed to buy the grader, but considering we had no actual agreement, I don't want to fight lawsuits that we can't win. I agree with you. I'm glad we're not doing business with Willie's Precision Towing anymore, but I don't want to cut off my nose to spite my face.
I'll leave that decision to the town manager, how we go forward.
I would imagine if you accept that money, then you compromise your legal
Correct.
case forward. So
I agree. I'm just wondering, let's get information on whether there is a legal case, and if not, that we can still receive some recoup from the company that made it so we had to buy a $45,000 vehicle.
any other discussion from members of the council? Councilman Pasqua.
I'm in agreement with going after them legally, whatever we can get out of them. If it was up to me, I'd say take the whole thing, go after the 45. It's just.
That's what we're doing.
That's ridiculous.
That's what we're doing. They're going after the entire amount now because they
they-
ruined the grader.
These companies, they know better. This is what they do. They tow.
The grader was in such, even though it was 35 years old, it was still usable every day. And we
Right.
used it. Other than that, hydraulically, that was our
Yeah.
fault for calling them, which was our only recourse at the time. But they had been providing us good service and this was not. And they did the same thing to the town of Forster. But they were able to replace the transmission for Foster's grader 2 years ago. So I talked to the director there and they stood behind what they said. So that's why I was confident that their word was worth listening to. But obviously not.
Vice President LeBlanc.
No, fully support going after the full amount and would prefer not to use the contingency if we could use CIP.
I agree on that. I don't want to use contingency in August for $45,000 if we have another option. I also wonder, just kind of going off the same, and I'm sure our legal counsel's already thought of it, suing the insurance company for Willie's. Oh, okay. I'm just thinking sue their insurance company and see how that goes.
All right. So just an update. You don't need anything from the council this evening.
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Item B, update on Pave It Forward program.
Well, currently we have, Cardi Corporation is in doing the paving. We've been in contact with both Kent County Water Associates and also with Rhode Island Energy Gas to make sure that we weren't paving roads that they had work scheduled for. And Rhode Island Energy has asked us to put the hold on 2 of the roads because they're going to do some work for us, moving it forward. So we're working with them currently. We did find that when we started the milling process, and I brought a sample into town manager, 8 of the roads we were supposed to be doing found out that were going to be milled. The thickness of the asphalt was only 1 inch thick. So they couldn't do 1.5 inches milling on an asphalt to the entire pavement. That's why we had such bad roads on those 8 roads. So that's being changed over to a reclamation to put binder and top on. So something we weren't planning on. So we're not going to go forward with anything else at this point until we know where we are with the billing process. Right now we have 5 roads that have been milled and paved, 7 roads that have been milled awaiting pavement. 6 roads have been reclaimed. 4 roads are left to be reclaimed, and 2 roads have been put on suspended by Rhode Island Energy Gas for now. So those are the 24 roads that we were planning on doing. We are waiting our first invoice to verify the quantities and cost before we move on to anything further on that. So we don't spend the money without getting authorization for any overages. But we have roads that we weren't planning on spending 3 inches of asphalt as opposed to 1.5 inches. So that will come forward. So we're working on making sure we're not going too far over with that. We also had a discussion with town manager regarding a process. We've begun the application for the Municipal Road and Bridge Grant Fund. The town must match 66%, 66 and 2/3, and the state will do 33 1/3. The town share will be $1.6 million, and the state will give us roughly $790,000 for a total of $2.6 thousand for road paving, which is 4.41% of the entire roadway network in the state. So we're getting a bigger chunk than most people do. In many of the meetings we've gone with the estate, they've indicated that any funds that we allocate prior to this grant approval cannot be added as a match. So I've asked the town manager to hold off on the second phase of this until we get this processed, so that we can use the money that you're already thinking about putting in for the next phase of these roads. We can use that match as part of the ARPA funds that you talked about. So we're moving forward. We're getting money. We've also applied, and coming up on the agenda later on is the CDBG money, and that's nearly $500,000 for a low mod area that meets the criteria, from Hazard Street to Reed Avenue, and all those streets up to Gallery will be done as part of the project if approved by CDBG. So we're looking at getting a lot of asphalt work done, and that's the only area that we could actually use because it's deemed low mod through the state. So, but that's for another discussion. But we are paving.
Yeah, like the director said, originally we were going to come back to the council for another 1.2 for paving, but because of the state program, we don't want to spend anything more until we're involved in the state program and use that 1.2 towards that 1.6 that we have to spend in order to get that match. So it's not that the program's on hold. We're just kind of going to slow roll it until we're able to get the application going for the state.
Discussion, questions? Councilmember Shockley.
Just to understand, do we have to just have the application in to the state to get started, or it has to be approved? And did they say how long that process is?
Hopefully by the end of December, they'll have that approval in place. So we're possibly looking right now at the springtime paving season, if that's the case. If they can get it done earlier, then obviously we can ask for a change order to the existing contract and move forward, because was the lowest prices that we had when we went out to bid for this program.
Okay. And we still plan on moving along with the ones that have been started, but not finished. And we're going to get everything finished to the point that winter isn't going to ruin our progress.
They're actually starting over to start paving the roads that have been milled and actually reclaimed. We only have 4 left to be done. So they're going to be done by the end of this month. They'll be done with the paving program.
So if the town could put something together that we could all put out as the roads get done, or once they get done for this season, I don't want to, I'm glad everyone's sitting, but I've seen some good comments about this out there in the world.
I actually
did
ask that we have a landing page within the DPW section of the website that's just road paving that says basically the schedule of what's happening. So people know when their streets estimated to be touched or what streets are being done now. So I agree with that.
Great.
And I would just note that there has to be a caveat in that, because like now we've got 2 of the roads that were on the original list that are now on suspension until the rail energy gas is completed. So I don't want somebody from Potter Street saying, "Oh, how come you're not doing mine this right now?"
No, that's fine. If we need to put those notes next to it, then but I think that people should know that this council is making roads a priority.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion from members of the council on this item? All right, see you in a bit. Moving on to resolutions of the council. Item A, resolution 2023-47, vote to release the guarantee known as Village at East Shore Phase 2 in the full amount of $127,116.47 for the approved development known as Paul Sprague Drive. It's on page 56 to 71 in your packets. Resolution reads as follows. Whereas in the town of Coventry in January 2018, a bond was set and posted with the town of Coventry after the completion of improvements in the amount of $127,116.47. And the Coventry subdivision and land development regulations allow for the guarantee to be released after 2 years following the certification of all required improvements by application to the town council. And on June 14th, 2023, town engineer Joe Levake prepared a memorandum recommending that the bond be fully released from the 20% withholding after reviewing the phase 2 construction. And on June 28th, 2023, the planning commission recommended 9-0, the final release of the bond in the amount of $127,116.47 to be forwarded to the town council. Now therefore be it resolved that the Honorable Town Council approves the final release of the construction bond for Paul Sprague Drive Village at East Shore Phase 2 in the amount of $127,116.47. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilman Pasqua. Discussion. Hi. I just state your name and.
Sure, Thomas Cronin, for the applicant.
Thank you.
I made the request for the resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions. It was accurately described in the resolution.
Manager Parrillo, any comments?
No, I believe they've met all the qualifications. The planning commission, Joe Levesque approved the final phase. The planning commission has approved it and recommending that the council approve it.
Discussion from members of the council. Councilmember Shockley.
Could you just give me a better, just take these 15 pages and give me a 1 paragraph
Sure.
to 2 of what exactly, why this $127,000 existed?
Sure. So, Village at East Shore is a 2-phase neighborhood subdivision built on the top of Tioga Avenue on top of the hill. Paul Sprague Drive is the name of this phase, 20 houses on that street. In 2018, most of the infrastructure, road, drainage, sidewalks, curbing, had been installed, and we came before the planning commission. They recognized that out of $634,000, that those costs, about $56,000 remain, but state law requires that a minimum of 20% be held back by the town. That's how they came up with the $127,000. The town holds that for a minimum of 2 years. We had COVID in the middle between 2018 and now. It took a little time. Mr. McGee congratulated me to finally getting to the finish line on the way in. So this is a maintenance bond, right? So it's to make sure that we finish, in that when we finish, it doesn't just look nice, it works. So that's why you start with the town engineer and the planning board before I come here and tell you that it's all done. The neighborhood is complete. The public infrastructure, the public street drainage, sidewalks, curbing is complete. And this is the last step. So it's in the form of a guarantee that we'll finish our work. And if we don't, the town will.
Further discussion from members of the council? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank the council.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, resolution 2023-48, authorizing the town manager to file applications for CDBG grants for the Public Works Department, Quidnick Road Improvements, and for the Parks and Recreation Department, Quidnick Park Improvement Project. This is on pages 72 to 79 in your packets. The resolution reads as follows, whereas in the town of Coventry, funds are available under the Rhode Island Community Development Block Grant Program administered by the Department of Administration, Division of Planning, Office of Housing and Community Development. And whereas the governor of the state of Rhode Island has authorized the director of said department to disperse such funds. And whereas it is the interest of the citizens of the town of Coventry that application be made to undertake a local community development block grant program. And the planning commission has voted to approve the projects along with the support of the planning director. Now therefore be it resolved, the Honorable Town Council, that the town manager is authorized to file applications for the Public Works Department, Quidnick Road Improvements in the amount of $495,944.50. And for the Parks and Recreation Department, Quidnick Park Improvement Project in the amount of $495,247. These applications are to implement the activities set forth in the proposed CDBG program year 2022 with the Office of Housing and Community Development. and that the town manager is hereby further authorized and directed to provide any additional information or documents required by said Office of Housing and Community Development to make any assurances required in connection with this program, to execute an agreement with the state of Rhode Island, and to otherwise act as the representative of the town of Coventry in all matters relating to this application and any award which may be based upon this application. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Shockley, second by Vice President LeBlanc. Discussion. Manager Parrillo.
So this is the end of a very long process. I want to give credit to Gail and Doug and the whole team, as well as Rainer and Kevin. They did a lot of work in a very short period of time. We really relied on Lisa Andoja to step up and really assist us in getting this paperwork and these grants, in particular the wording of them completed. We had the public hearings. So for the first time in, I think it's 5 years, we've actually submitting two programs, two applications for CDBG. This, like I said, this is the last phase. And I believe there's a vetting process that the Rhode Island Housing does to select which programs they feel would be most beneficial. Like to get both of them, but if we get one, that's a win for us. Both are very good projects. Rainer's project is a new playground, field, lights next to the CCAP building on MacArthur Boulevard. Would be great for that neighborhood. Kevin's projects are all paving and sidewalks in that same general area. So with your approval, we're going to submit our final documentation to Rhode Island Housing to complete our application. And at that point, hope.
Discussion from members of the council. Councilmember Shockley.
Can you just explain for the public if these projects are fully funded by these grants or if the town would have to put forth?
As far as I know, fully funded.
Well, then I guess my next question is there a reason we wouldn't approve this?
Any further discussion?
The answer is no.
Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
Next, in our resolutions, items C through L are all DPW related, as the annual contracts for certain materials and services. We have an agreement for hot asphalt patch to D'Ambra Construction, secondary with Cardi Corporation. Agreement for cold asphalt patch with Johnston Asphalt LLC. Agreement for earth materials with Richmond Sand and Stone LLC and Sunny K Trucking. Agreement for emergency equipment rental services with Rambone Disposal Service and Whaley Hollow Farms. Agreement for heating and air conditioning services with Automatic Temperature Controls Incorporated. Agreement for pipes, castings, erosion controls with Warwick Wind Water Company. An agreement for plumbing services with David Parrillo Plumbing, Heating and Sun LLC. An agreement for winter sand with Sunny K Trucking. Agreement to purchase electrical services with Alpha Electrical Contractors Incorporated. Agreement for pest control services with Falcon Pest Control Services. Solicitor Angel.
So just so the council's clear, the resolutions only permit the town to enter into these contracts subject to review of the actual contract. Just so you're clear on that.
Manager Parrillo.
Also, I have no relationship with David Parrillo Plumbing, whoever that is.
Vice President LeBlanc.
I'll make a motion to vote on these as a block.
Motion from Vice President LeBlanc to vote on resolutions C through L as a block.
I second it.
Second from Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion? This is on the discussion to vote as a block. Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
Do I hear a motion to approve resolutions C through L?
I'll make a motion.
Council President, if I may, I think there's one addition to the, I believe it's H.
Can I just get a motion second and first we can discuss?
Sorry.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilman Pasqua. Discussion. You said resolution H,
So
page
the
85.
the resolution is correct regarding pipes, casting, erosion and controls. The title is just missing EJ Prescott. There are actually two companies. There's Warwick Wind Water and there's also EJ Prescott. So it's confirmed on the resolution itself. It's just not in that title that you guys are voting on.
Okay. Do we need to make an amendment or do you feel it's just clarification?
Clarification, I believe.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Just clarification, was there a bidding process for each of these or were they just selected off a state list? Just clarification for the record. All right, and then did we receive more than one for each of these? Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any further discussion from members of the council or administration?
So
Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Moving on to ordinances, we have two this evening. Item A, ordinance 2023-2, first reading of proposed amendments to Town Code Chapter 209, Streets and Sidewalks, adding section 19. And item B, ordinance 2023-3, first reading of proposed amendments to Town Code 204, Solid Waste, section 28, Storage and Collection of Residential Bulky Waste.
Madam President
Solicitor Angel,
and council, these are being withdrawn. They'll be reintroduced at the next council meeting.
thank you. Moving on to public comment for undocketed items. This time, we'll now accept public comment. Come forward and just state your name and address on items not on our agenda this evening.
Good evening, Madam President, honorable council members, Nick Longo, 5 Autumn Ridge Road. I just wanted to speak real briefly and in general about competitive bid process. I'm glad to hear that an RFP was conducted for each of the list of services that were approved tonight. I think, though, it should be a little more transparent for the public, and it could be accomplished by including in the resolution a brief summary of the RFP process, such that it would say something like RFP was published on May 30th and 5 bids were received. Of the 5 bids, 2 were chosen. And that would give the public the idea that there is a document that they can look at that shows that the RFP actually happened. A couple of the purchase resolutions simply stated that they were chosen because they've been doing business with the town for several years. And again, that could have been an RFP in the background. We don't know because it's not in the resolutions, but because a business has been doing work for the town for several years is not really a sole source purchase. Sole source would only be something to the effect of this company is the only company that knows how to do this work, or they have proprietary software that we're using, so they're the only ones that can do the work. But just because they're doing business for several years isn't a good enough reason. Also, I think that in the resolution, it should show the actual budget amount. All of the resolutions say that it's in the budget, but if we see the actual dollar amount, it shows the appropriations are actually committed, and that dollar amount is there for everybody to see rather than just, oh, it's in the budget. And then finally, on competitive bid process, the website should prominently display invitation to bid on town projects. And there's really no place that I've seen, at least on the website, where it says, click here if you'd like to bid on something for the town. You want to really encourage that, especially for local vendors, which Coventry has a lot of them. And then on another matter, financial transparency. In the past, when a fiscal document was presented to the council, it was easily found on the agenda through a hyperlink. And lately, that hasn't been the case. As an example, tonight, a very comprehensive fiscal document was presented and discussed, but there's no way for the public to see that document like we used to in the past. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments from members of the public this evening on undocketed items? Hi, just state your name and address for the record. Sure, just state your name and address for the record. Yep.
I'm Cynthia Mason, 116 Provident Place in Coventry.
I'm her husband. I'm Curtis Mason, same address, 116 Provident Place here in beautiful downtown Coventry.
Bill Morgan, 228 Provident Place, Coventry.
Basically, we're here because we want our street and our park back. Central Coventry Park is at the end of our street, and there's been nothing but carty trucks going back and forth dumping asphalt in the park. Children playing. They took the playground out. They have 2 baseball fields. There's enough room up there for 2 full soccer fields. They did put a small soccer field for under 6s about 4 years ago, which has never been used. They took down trees to show a movie in 2020 for Halloween, 2 perfectly good 20-year-old trees, which were not replaced. There's so much junk up there at this point. Half the parking is gone. And now I guess they have regional baseball games there on weekends. Well, the people from Connecticut, Massachusetts, it's not 95, and there are no signs on our street that say 25 miles an hour except one, and that's when you're coming out of the park. There's one sign going in the park that says 10 miles an hour. I have pictures I took, and it's behind a pole, so people can't even see. We have children on our street. We have people that walk dogs, women who push strollers with their children and grandchildren. It's unsafe. And now the town has dug a ditch, and the ditch is at least 3 feet deep. My dog, who's a pretty good sized dog, can walk in the ditch, and I can walk beside her, and there's this much room between the road and the ditch, and it looks like I'm just dragging a leash. Something has to be done. This is unacceptable. There's garbage all over the place. The park is full of empty Gatorade bottles and Dunkin' Donuts cups. Anything else you want to add?
Not just the dumping of those things, there's also beer cans, nips all over the place. As far as I understand, this was given to the town originally in some form of federal government because it was the Nike site as a park, not as a place for the town to scrap its repaving of the asphalt. I have pictures here on my cell phone too. This pile is taller, this much taller than I, and as long as this room.
They put a
And-
little road to go up to the top so they could dump more. That's how high this asphalt.
It's completely unacceptable in my opinion. I believe I emailed Councilman Pasqua about it. He said that he would look at it and find out what's going on. But the 3 of us all live there. The other people we talk to on the street, most of us walk the street every day. My wife walks the dog 2 or 3 times a day. And everybody is concerned, number one, about the speeding. Number 2, all of this reclaimable material dumped at the end of the street, and it's under, it's just under no supervision. And the other thing is, these trucks going up there from Cardi have now crested the road, crowned the road. It's right in the middle, but these trucks are so heavy, they've just pushed down the road surface up and down the street. It's not acceptable. And I know myself, my wife, and Bill here have all talked to other people on the street about it. The 3 of us are the ones that have time to be able to come up here and express our displeasure about this.
Bill? Yeah, I'll add some technicals to it. I'm an engineer, so I'm real analytical on things. And that pile of asphalt is taller than this roof, taller than the ceiling. And then the dump trucks are going on top of it. They've been going on top of it to make it higher. And your load ratings on roads are based on your square footage of the tire on the pavement before it crushes down and ruins the road. Before they even put that back there, the pavement was dipped down and was holding water whenever we had rain. And now that huge pile is up there. And there's, when you've got the truck that's already at its maximum with the load on it, and then it's going up on top of a pile that's laying on the pavement that's already more than what's in the truck itself, there's no doubt that that is depressing the pavement and the ground even more. So you're going to have a problem. When all that stuff is moved, then there's going to be no good parking or asphalt down there. We're all on well water, and whatever is out there, you know, can impact us as well. But don't think that's a major problem. But in general, it's a great park, and this is a great place to live, great place to be, and you know, you do a great job with things. We just want some attention out there because it's kind of neglected in that. I understand that there's a separate property, because I've mentioned this several months back, where you're looking at to store materials that need to be, you don't have a place to put materials. But the road is going to have to be redone out there when all this is done. When the trucks come up, they are grunting up in low gear, going 10 miles an hour if they can make it. And because they're so loaded up. And so that's a challenge. And I know you've got the DPW challenges to deal with. If you can accelerate that extra property that is allocated, waiting for funding or whatever, I'm not sure, that would be good to have other places to put it than the park. Along with that, just some simple requests on, and this is from everybody out there. I mean, just the speed limit. You know, right now they have the tree companies parking their trucks out there overnight. That are in doing, I think they're doing utility line trimming, and so these tree companies, right from tree company trucks from Rochester, New York, are in, and they're parking there all night. And the drivers of those trucks are coming up at 6:45 in the morning, going 60 miles an hour. They're coming from Connecticut and New York, and they're probably driving the interstate all the way up. And by the time they get to that little road going up to the park, and might be running late, but they're going so fast. And had a neighbor whose dog was hit a couple of years ago. The whole street, all the way up and down, there's pets and children and et cetera. So the little flashing light that says, you know, speed limit, please slow down, or something like that. From when you leave the park until you get to the stop sign, this is the engineer in me again. So it's like the difference in going 60 and in going 20 is probably 20 seconds, you know, so maybe 10, save 10 seconds and be safe out there. So we could use some support on that, some signage. You know, I so tempted to put a sign up that said, please slow down, speed bump proposal pending. You know, because you know, if it keeps going, we'll come in and say, hey, we need speed bumps, but we don't want that. Nobody wants that, you know, but just if we can do something, and police department could help out on that a lot, just have more presence at times. But between the spare trucks, the spare equipment, all the trash is just thrown out there all the time. At nighttime, if they could close the park, you know, that would be nice with a gate out there. There's been a lot of arrests over the years for drugs being sold out there, and people coming in from Connecticut and other places to you know, sell drugs, and so there's been some good attention to that at times when calls have been made that, hey, there's people out there, it's 11:30 at night, you know, and there's there's 3 cars out there and they've been there for an hour, what's going on, and those kind of things. So there's been some response you know, there, but if we could kind of proposal a gate to close it at night, some speed limit signs, ideally some flashing ones even that say slow down, and then accelerate that extra property so you can get the materials out of there and then repair all the stuff that's damaged from all the weight out there. So I know there's a lot of challenges there that we don't all know about, but that's the pain we're feeling out there. And again, that's a huge number of neighbors that are expressing those concerns.
Thank you very much for coming tonight and for waiting. Councilman Pasqua.
I appreciate you guys coming out tonight and addressing this. I remember speaking with you via email over this, and I did talk with the town manager briefly about this, and it was my understanding this is a very temporary situation, I should say, with the asphalt at the park. I wasn't aware of the other issues you guys are having. The only thing that got brought to me at the time was what you and I talked about, which was the millings, and Manager Parrillo mentioned this be temporary. Do we have any other place that we may be able to deposit that stuff?
Well, we can follow up with them afterwards.
Yeah.
If you want to put your
Yeah.
card out for them to grab. They can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. So you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public here for public comment on undocketed items not on our agenda?
We on?
Yes.
Yeah, my name's Steve Riley, resident of Johnson's Pond. And I share my friends and neighbors' frustration and their claims for, geez, do some eminent domain here or something. I just like to, and some of these comments may be ignorant because I'm not privy to the relationship between the town and the state or Mr. Angel's, association with the Attorney General's office or the Legislative Council. I don't know. All I'm going to say is that eminent domain requires the assumption that this Flat River Reservoir was in fact a private property that could be sold. And this special franchise was something that could also be conveyed along with it. Eminent domain, if you listen to Mr. Doherty in his interview with Dan York, you'll see where he'll invite eminent domain as a solution to this, because it's basically the same thing as inverse condemnation, which is what they're seeking in their federal suit. So my concern is that I've identified my research to you folks, all my correspondence to the legislature, to the Attorney General, to the governor, and in the year and a half that this has been going on, I haven't heard one peep. Senator Raptakis dodges me. And so I'm a little concerned by that. My concerns could be addressed by a simple letter from Mr. Zarella from the Legislative Council telling me why I'm all wet. But I don't, how many of you folks have read that, and how many of you people find it frankly incredible? I mean, I know I do, but it's incredulous, the lack of response. Now, I know everybody has, well, where it's in a legal court case. Speaker Shikachi was quick to say, we don't generally, do any sort of legislative work with something in litigation. But all I'm asking is, I hope that there's a conduit between the Attorney General and the town, because I feel like if you noticed in the federal suit, the Attorney General has filed a second motion to dismiss against the second counterclaim. And to me, that's the perfect opportunity to raise the issues that my research raises and get this thing resolved once and for all under strict scrutiny analysis. So I just, any questions on my research?
Thank you. Appreciate your time tonight. Moving on to introduction of new matters before the council, item. Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment on undocketed items on Zoom. Going once, twice, 3 times. Public comment on undocketed items is now closed. Moving on, introduction of new matters before the council, item A. Approval of National Grid / Verizon utility pole location request, installing new poles 72, 73, 74, 75, and 76 on Sisson Road. Pages 94 to 100 in your packet. Do I hear a motion to approve the pole location request?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilman Pasqua. Manager Parrillo.
I have no comment.
Discussion from members of the council. Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Item B, approval of National Grid / Verizon utility pole location request, installing pole 10 through 10-50 to relocate the existing conductors going over 225 Nelson Capwell Road. Do I hear a motion to approve the location request?
Make the motion.
Second. Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passed.
Moving on to executive session items. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session for the following? Item A, executive or closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, re-update on possible litigation involving former town employees. And B, executive or closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, re-litigation involving Social Holdings LLC in the town of Coventry, CA number KC 2020-0769.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion from Vice President LeBlanc, second from Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
We will now go into executive session. Could I have a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc,
Oh, second.
second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yep.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Can I have a motion to seal the minutes of executive session?
Make motion.
Motion by Councilmember Shockley, second by Councilor Pasqua. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua. Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Members of the public, the council met in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, re-update on possible litigation involving former town employees, and pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, re-litigation involving Social Holdings LLC in the town of Coventry, CA number KC 2020-0769. A discussion was had, no votes were taken. Members of the council, can I have a motion to adjourn at 9:33 PM?
Make the motion.
Motion
Second.
by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilmember Shockley. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned.